Hi, it's Carrie Kenner. Welcome to my weekly vlog. Let's see, I'm not sure what episode it is. I'll put it down in the comments. But a couple months ago, I was talking a lot about how children learn, how we learn as children, how to be in the world. We learn from our parents or our primary caregivers. We watch them very closely. We look at their behaviors, their words to figure out how to behave in the world, what we define as right or correct. And we learn things like what foods are normal and how people interact with each other and what's safe or not safe. We just learn all these things primarily by watching. And then over time, we are told things explicitly. And then we learn things implicitly by watching other people around us as well. So it's this long process. Well, it's short in terms of it happens in the first couple of years of life, but it's a complex, layered process of learning. And clearly, some kids have the opportunity to see really good things and learn really positive things, and some children get to see horrendous things and experience terrible things. And whether it's good or bad, it imprints in us how to be in the world. And we don't have control over it because, well, first of all, we don't have control over our environment when we're especially really small children growing up. We're absolutely dependent 100% on somebody else to take care of us. But we also don't have control over how to think about things because we don't have rational thinking yet. We can't connect the dots. We can't say, wait, I saw one thing and that disproves this other thing. That kind of thought isn't developed in the brain yet. And children also they're not able to read nuances. Yeah, so their brains work very differently. And I'm sure you know that. But I also really want to make sure that people understand that they biologically, developmentally cannot think in other ways because those parts of the brain aren't even online yet. Okay. So, what I was really thinking about is how certain things that children are taught is abuse. And I'm not talking about physical abuse. I'm not talking about emotional abuse where kids are told they're bad and worthless and things like that. I'm talking about when kids are taught to hate other people and other things, specifically racism, but it could be any type of hatred or judgment against other people. When kids are taught that explicitly, that is abuse because that is getting planted in their brains. They do not have a way to defend themselves from horrible thinking, and they learn that becomes a part of them and how they see the world, and they will go out in the world and replicate that kind of ideology, those kinds of behaviors. They replicate hate. Now, children come into the world pure. I've seen hundreds of babies come into the world and there isn't a lick of hatred in their bodies. They may not like being cold. They may not like being outside of the womb. They may not like being poked and prodded, but they don't hate anything. They just know that that thing hurts and my nervous system is telling me that's not good. They're feeling cold and their hardwiring says being cold is not going to help me live. Being warm is. They're reacting to the hunger in their belly and saying, I need to eat. Like all of their responses that look like, I'm angry, I don't like this. They're not judged. There's no judgment involved. They're just purely how they're wired so that they can survive. Okay, this is a really good thing. But as they grow up and they learn behaviors and ideas and thoughts, when they learn that broccoli is yucky and they haven't even tasted broccoli, they learned that from somebody around them. That's unfair. That's unfortunate. But when they are taught to dislike other people or even certain animals or insects, like hating spiders, like what the heck did a spider ever do to you? Okay, so maybe it bit you. Did you die? Okay, so some people do die. But That's not why most people are taught to hate spiders. They're just taught to hate spiders or bees. I mean, both those animals are incredibly important to this planet. But I'm really more talking about people to dislike others, to judge others, to hate others. They're told other people, all other people do these things. And again, the discerning mind of the child isn't online yet. They don't have the ability to say, but I don't see that. Or, but wait, I saw this one person that looks like that'd be really nice, but you're telling me they're all mean. They don't have the capacity to do that. And even when they get to the age where they can do that, where they can start to say, wait a second, I'm seeing some flaws in your reasoning, they may be afraid to stand out or confront a parent because their survival is still heavily dependent on that parent, even when they're a teenager. Okay. Because as you've heard me talk before about safety and belonging, we need to feel safe in our family so that we belong to something that will help take care of us. Because again, we're still not quite able to take care of ourselves on our own. So, you know that expression, kids say the damnedest things. They do. They often repeat what they hear. Like children. Okay, children do make up words, but when children are communicating with others, they don't make up words. They're using words they've already heard. And that's one of the things that's really funny when we say, oh, kids say the darndest things, is because they're repeating something that they heard, but they're using it either in a context that doesn't quite fit, or they really picked it up quickly and they're using it exactly right, but it seems kind of beyond their years or beyond their knowing or wisdom. And yes, that can be entertaining, but also I want you to think of the flip side of that is when kids can hear things and then repeat them, and they may not know the true meaning of what they're saying, or they may be using it out of context. And then it becomes harmful, or it becomes a patterned way of thinking that is taking that pure heart and mind of a child and poisoning it. So there's nothing that I personally can do about it. There's nothing that any of us can do individually to change all of it. But what I want you to do is think about what you can change within your family. And if there's ways, if you work with families who have children, what are the ways that you can help adults be really aware of what they're saying about other people and how that gets planted in the sweet little minds of our children? That what we might say of like, oh, that person always does blah, 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 that child takes that as black and white information, fact. And they don't have the ability yet to question it. And that is unfair. So I ask all of us to be very mindful of the things that we say about other people, and to make sure that our kids understand as early as possible how people can say things that aren't necessarily true, to find ways to get hatred out of our heart and out of our language and out of our minds, to learn how to accept and be kind to people who even think differently than us. I always figure as long as nobody is harming people with their opinion, I, for the most part, don't care what their opinion is. But if they want their opinion to get institutionalized so that nobody has access to anything but their opinion, that's harmful. And we see these things happening around us with book bans, with things that people are trying to restrict what's taught in school. Why would anybody be afraid of anybody learning anything that happened in history? Why? Why would that be a problem unless there's something you're trying to hide? So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about how we can poison the minds of children. And if we were poisoning them with food, that would be abuse. And if we're poisoning their minds, in my mind, that is abuse as well. So let's do better. I hope you join me in that. All right. Be well. Bye.